said in the last video, I did 2 rows of solid because that is starting the color blocking. So write down how many rows that rounds that you did with your multicolored, you know, and count the 2 beginning rounds right here. So once again, I will count on camera. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I did 11 rounds of the multicolor plus the 2 beginning solid colors. And then I did 2 rounds of solid. That will make it 13. Now, I'm telling you now to write this down because you're going to do your arm lengthening, your cuff, and then lengthening the width of your cardigan, the front and back panels, and then just the back panel. You're going to do all of that, and then you're going to repeat all of that for the next arm. So it's really easy to just mark down how many rows you did in each color now, so that when you need to repeat it for the other side, you have everything written down, and it's pretty much just crocheting away with no thought process, no measuring, no anything. You just keep on going until you have all those numbers. Okay, so now we are on the part where we are going to seam up the arm. So you are going to want to make your hexagon into your L shape, and when you do this, you want to make sure where you start, your starting point is at the top seam in the corner, like this. So I folded it into like a L shape, and I have where I just ended my last round right here. I have it in my top left corner. Now you want to do that because we are going to seam up the ends, and it's very important that you have your starting point in the top corner. So what I like to do after I put it into an L, since this is your armhole right here, I like to get a clip. And I like to clip this corner so that when I work on this next part, I know this is the armhole. I know this is like the end of the armhole where we're going to lengthen. And then this is my starting point. So you are going to want to get your hook, and you're going to begin as usual with a chain 3 and then 2 double crochets into that chain 2 spot, and then you are going to Mosaic granny cluster around like you were doing when you were doing your hexagon, and you're going to go up down this side, then you're going to go down the bottom, and then you're going to go up this side, and you're going to end right here on this back part. So do your cluster stitches until you get to this back point. So basically you're going down this is your front panel or back panel, whatever. Your one panel, then your bottom panel, and then the other back panel, and then when you get to this corner, it will be your 1, 2, third corner, not including your beginning corner. When you get to the third corner, I will meet you there, and I will show you how we are going to seam up the sleeve. Alright, so I am back. I am at my corner right here. So it's literally the other side of the beginning corner. And here it is, right here. And I am going to place 3 double crochets into that corner. 1, 2, and 3. Now you are going to want to pull up a long loop, and you are going to want to turn your work inside out. So this is why I think this clip is awesome as well, because all you have to do is take your work and then flip it like that. And I think it just makes it easier, so then you're not wondering, oh my gosh, what rows did I just do? It's clipped there. I just take my clip out and then I just flip it from this side, and now we are inside out. So to connect the two pieces together, you are going to want to zoom in. You are going to want to insert your hook into that beginning chain 3 that you did at the start. And then you are going to want to take that long loop that you just pulled, and you are going to want to slip stitch that together, those two together. Now both of your panels are together, and then you are going to want to chain 3, and then you are going to want to slip stitch your middle cluster pieces together. So I know that sounds confusing. So right here is your 3 cluster stitches. You're going to want to insert your hook into that middle cluster on one panel, and then you're going to grab your other panel, and then you're going to want to insert your hook into that middle stitch, and then you're going to slip stitch those two together, and then you're going to chain, and then you're going to want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to want to go to your next clusters right here, and you are going to want to insert your hook into that middle stitch, which the middle stitch, so to make this easier, the middle stitch you are inserting your hook into is your treble stitch of that cluster of right there. So I'm going to insert my hook inside of that middle stitch on one panel, and then inside of the middle stitch of the other panel, which is the front post treble, and then I am going to slip stitch those two together and then chain 3. I'll do it again. Okay, so here is my 3 clusters from one panel, inserting my hook into that treble stitch, one panel, and then here's the back panel, and I'm inserting my hook into the middle stitch, which is the treble stitch of the back panel. Then I slip stitch those two together. Oops. Slip stitch those two together, and then I chain 3. I'll show that one more time. Sorry for that noise, it's my clip. And then here's another example. Here's my next cluster, and you're skipping over, you know, these chain 1 spots and all, so you're going right into here's my next cluster. Here's the middle stitch, which is the treble stitch. Insert my hook into the front panel one. Here's the back panel. Here's the middle stitch, which is the treble. Insert your hook in there, slip stitch those two together, and then chain 3. Now you're going to continue that all the way down right before you get to your corner stitches, and I will meet you there. Alright, I am at the end, and when you get to the end, you are not right here, right before your corner stitches. You're not going to chain 3 here. You're just going to slip stitch into both of those corner stitches, slip stitch them together, and then you're going to pull up a long loop, and that is the seam for your arm. And I don't know why I love this seam, because I think it would be cool too if you use a different color and then you will have kind of like the chain that color, but it also just blends in really well together. So now you are going to turn your work right side out, and I do this by just going like this with my work, pulling it through that sleeve. Now straighten it out. Where is my loop? Okay. So here's my loop. I'm going to insert my hook in there, and then let's pull it tight. Now we are going to lengthen the sleeve, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like on the other side. This is the arm seam. See, it kind of just gives it more depth, more texture to the cardigan. And then that's what it looks like going all the way down. And this is how we're gonna seam up our back part too. Okay, so now let's lengthen our sleeve. Now to lengthen the sleeve, for measurements for it, I used my neck to wrist measurement, once again off of the craftcouncil.com, from those measurements that they provide you there, and I just subtracted 4 to whatever it said. So for the neck to wrist measurement for a size 6 was 20.5 inches, and then I did 20.5 minus 4, and it got me 16.5 inches for my arm length. So I am going to add length to the arm length section of this, and I'm not going to stop until I get to 16.5 inches, and then that's where I will start my cuff. And once again, if you have another way of measuring it out, you can do it your way. You can make your sleeve smaller, you can make your sleeves longer or shorter. It's all up to you. I know, I just like it to where my cuff is all the way, you know, down here. So that's just how I ended up measuring it out. But you can make your sleeve length however much you want. But if you're going to go by, or if you don't have someone with you and you're trying to make this, just take your neck to wrist measurement off of the guide, and I will definitely post the inches and how many in the description box, and then you just subtract 4 from that, and then you keep lengthening your sleeve until you get to that length. So let's get started with lengthening the sleeve. Okay, so you are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you are going to place 2 double crochets into this chain 1 space right after your chain 3. 1, 2, and then you are going to chain 1, and then you are going to mosaic granny cluster all the way around until you get to your last chain 1 space right here. So here's 1 until you get to this one. So it's about the second chain 1 space before your beginning chain 3. So I will show 1. So I'm going to do a mosaic granny cluster into the chain 1 space. And then chain 1, put another mosaic granny cluster. So you're going to continue that around. until you get to the second chain 1 before your beginning chain 3. Okay, so I am at my second chain 1 from the beginning chain 3. So right here, here's 1 and then 2, here's my second one. And I'm going to put a Mosaic granny cluster into that space. And then I am going to chain 1, and then you are going to skip this chain 1 space right before your chain 3, and you are going to slip stitch right into the top of that beginning chain 3, and then round 1 is done. So for round 2, you are going to chain 3, and then you are going to Mosaic granny cluster around. So here's my chain 3, and then here's my chain 1 space, and we are going to put a Mosaic cluster into there. And then we are going to continue that around, and I will meet you back at that chain 1 space right before your beginning chain 3. Okay, so I am at the chain 1 space right before my beginning chain 3, and then I am going to place 1 double crochet into that space, run front post treble. Now this cluster is kind of like, I would say slanted, but you're going to go into the second double crochet of that cluster and front post treble, just like you would for a Mosaic granny cluster. And then instead of putting another double crochet back into that chain 1 space, you are going to slip stitch into your beginning chain 3 instead. Just like that. And round 2 is complete. So for round 3, you are going to chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet. And then you are going to place a treble, front post treble, around the second double crochet, just like a regular Mosaic cluster stitch. And then you are going to place a double crochet into that chain 1 space, and then chain 1. And then you're going to Mosaic cluster all the way around for round 3. And I will meet you back at the end when you get ready to finish off this round. Alright, so to end round 3, you are going to place your last granny cluster, Mosaic granny cluster, into that chain 1 space right before your beginning chain 3, chain 1, and then you are going to slip stitch into your beginning chain 3. And then that ends round 3. Now here is a good time, a good spot to kind of measure your arm length. Now the measurements that you're going to use. Okay, so to measure your arm length and get it to your desired length, I used my arm and wrist, arm to wrist measurements. I use those measurements off of the craftcouncil.com, and I subtracted 4 from that. So for a size 6, child size 6, the neck to wrist measurement is 20.5, and then I subtracted 4 from that, and I got 16.5. So I am going to have to keep repeating rows 2 and 3 of the arm length part, the rows that we just did, 2 and 3, until my sleeve measures 16 0.5. Right now I am at around 14 inches, give or take a few, and I am going to have to keep going until I get to 16 to 16 and a half. And then we will start the cuff. So for me, I think I'm going to do 2 more rows of the arm length. So I'm going to do rows 2 and 3. So to continue with the arm length, you are just going to repeat rows 2 and 3 until you get to your desired size, and then we're going to start on to the cuff. And when you do that, when you get to your desired size, make sure you write down how many rounds you did for the arm lengthening, and write that down so then you have that information for when you need to do the other half of your hexagon cardigan. And I will meet you back once you get to your desired length, and we will start on the cuff. And I want to also note that you want to end on a round 3. And you want to end on a round 3 because it gives it a clean seam. So when you do your arm lengthening, you do round 2, then round 3, round 2, then round 3, until you get to your desired length, and make sure you end on round 3. So at the end of round 3, start your cuff once you get to the length that you want. Alright, so I did all of my rounds, so I ended up doing a total of 2 extra rounds. So in total I have 5 rounds of the arm lengthening. And it's an easy way to tell how many rounds you have, because here is your arm seam, and then here is your first chain 3 of your arm lengthening. So you can kind of tell your arm seam because it's like a kind of hole with a little line in. Then you just go up, and then here's your first chain of the arm lengthening. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So now we are going to move on to the cuff, and you are going to have to switch to a 4mm hook, or if you use a different size yarn, you just do 1 hook size down from the size that you've been using. And to start off with the cuff, for round 1, you are going to chain 1, and then you are going to place your first single crochet in the same stitch as your chain 1, which is that chain 3 from the previous round. And then you are going to single crochet all the way around, and you're going to skip your chain 1 spaces. So here is a chain 1 space, and instead of putting a single crochet there, I'm going right into my double crochet, and I'm going to do all of that all the way around. So single crochet in all of your stitches, skipping over your chain 1 stitches, and then I will meet you at the end, and you're just going to slip stitch into your beginning single crochet. Okay, so I'm at the end of round 1, and I am going to slip stitch into my beginning single crochet to end that round. Now for round 2, you can do it 2 ways. If you want your cuff to be kind of like snug on your wrist, you are going to single crochet decrease all the way around, and then slip stitch into your first single crochet. If you want it to be kind of a looser fit, you are going to single crochet and then decrease, single crochet and then decrease. So it kind of depends on how you want your cuff. So for today, for me, I am going to do a tighter cuff because my daughter, she's only 4, she's turning 5, so I kind of sized up with her size, making a size 6. So I want her cuff to be a little bit tighter around her wrist. So I'm going to single crochet decrease all the way around. But once again, if you want a looser cuff, you're going to, and I will show an example, so you will chain 1. Then you're going to place a single crochet into that same stitch as your chain 1, and then you are going to single crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches, and then you will single crochet in the next stitch, and then single crochet decrease into your next 2 stitches. So you would do it that way if you want a looser cuff. Now, if you want a tighter cuff, and that's what I'm going to do today, you are going to single crochet decrease all the way around. So to start, you are going to chain 1 and then single crochet decrease in the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet decrease in the next 2 stitches. And then you're going to do that all the way around until you get to the end. And I will meet you there so we can end this round. Okay, so I'm at the end and I just decreased all the way around. And I wanted to note this, that since, you know, we're really not counting stitches, sometimes you might have an extra single crochet, or maybe not have enough to do a decrease for before you fasten off. So like right here, I did a decrease and then I still have 1 stitch left before I can fasten off. Just place a single crochet there, that's totally fine. It's not really going to do any damage to your work. And then just fasten off in your beginning single crochet. Now we are going to start the cuff lengthening part. So to do this part, you are going to want to chain up your desired length that you're going to want your cuff. I, for some reason, always chain up 13, and one of those chains is for my turning chain. Don't know why. I like the number 3, so I just stick with 13. If you want your cuff to be smaller, chain as many as you want. If you want it to be longer, chain as many as you want. That's totally up to you, but for me today, I'm going to chain up 13. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then you are going to single crochet into that second hump from your hook. So here's the first hump, and then here's the second, and then you are going to single crochet into all of your humps all the way down. And you should have a total, if you chained 13, you should have a total of 12 single crochets. Okay, so do not forget this little hump right here. That's your first chain. Make sure you place your last single crochet in there. Okay, so when you get done and you get to the bottom, you are going to slip stitch into your next 2 stitches, making sure you're not slip stitching into that stitch that your starting 13 chains is coming off of. So let me see. So this stitch right here, that's the stitch that your chains are coming out of. So you are going to want to slip stitch into these 2 stitches. So you're going to slip stitch twice, so 1, split the yarn, and then 2, and then you're going to turn your work, and then you are going to single crochet into your back loop right there, not into your slip stitches. You're going to single crochet into your last single crochet that you did. So get a little closer. So this is your first slip stitch, this is your second slip stitch, and then this right here is your first single crochet. And you are going to single crochet into the back loop. And then single crochet into the back loop into every stitch until you get to the end. Okay, so I'm at the end, and you should have a total of 12 single crochets in the back loop only. And then now you are going to turn your work, and you're not going to chain, and you are going to insert your single crochet into the back loop only all the way down. And once again, you should have 12 single crochets. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm at the end, and I just need to put one more single crochet into the back loop, and then we are going to slip stitch into the next 2 available stitches. So make sure you're not slip stitching into the stitch right here that you're working basically out of, and you will be able to tell because your work is coming out of that stitch. You are slip stitching into the next available 2 stitches. So you're going to slip stitch twice, so 1 and then 2, and then turn your work, and then once again do not single crochet into those slip stitches. Single crochet into your first single crochet available right here. My camera's trying to adjust. Okay, there, I think it adjusted. And you're going to single crochet into the back loop only all the way into the end. And so you're going to keep repeating that until you have no more stitches to slip stitch into. And I will meet you back at that point to show you how to close off your cuff, and then we will move on to the next part, which will be adding the width to your cardigan. Okay, so I am at the end of my cuff, and I have no more I have one more stitch that I can slip stitch into, but when you get down to this part and you only have one stitch to slip stitch into, just make an extra slip stitch. So right here, I ended right here, so I'm just going to slip stitch in there, and I'm going to end it, and I'm going to cinch my 2 pieces together. And to do that, you are going to get your first single crochet from your front, and then the first single crochet from the back panel. So here we are. Here's my first single crochet, and you are going to go into the back loop of your first panel of your first single crochet, and then you're going to go into the front loop of the back part or panel, whatever you want to call it, cuff part. So I would say this is the first panel of the cuff, and this is the back panel of the cuff, and then you're going to slip stitch that together. Now you move on to the next stitch, go into the back loop of the first single crochet in the front and then go into the front loop of the single crochet in the back. And then you're going to do that all the way down. Oops. Until you get to the end, and then you are going to fasten off. Alright, so I am at the end and I am just going to fasten off. And we are done with the sleeve and the cuff. Now you can weave in your ends now for this part, or you can wait until the end. I'm just going to keep on going and I'm just going to do it at the end. Now this is what it looks like so far. So we did the hexagon, this is where we added the length, because you know that's where we added it at because of the pink. And then here's the cuff. And then here is the hexagon now. Now what we're about to do is add in the width.